It's that time again. It's another Stark Dark Open series. After the success of the first one, they're hosting a second one. Once again, doing standard and retro, this time on November 1st and November 2nd. It's going to be in Illinois at Impact Gaming Center. And if you want to find out more info as we get closer to the date of the tournaments, check out this link. Welcome back to another Retro Deck Profile, everybody. If you don't know where to get started with Retro, if you don't know what to play in the Retro Ace Arena this weekend, grab this deck, play Storm Rando. It's a very cool deck. Now, I will start off by saying if Rando is the character you want to play the best Rando deck, this might not be the best Rando deck, but Rando is the best character for this deck. The evil symbol has a lot of great ways to play with the face down card in its card pool and payoffs for playing attacks from somewhere other than, your hand. But this deck is all about drawing as many cards as possible. And the way it does that is with Rekimaru and Mekimaru. This is a 1/5 asset. It's absolutely amazing. Response, check a 6+ after a card leaves a card pool. During the combat phase, draw one card. Absolutely stellar ability. And then it has enhanced commit. Your attack is plus X damage. X equals the total number of cards that have left either card pool this combat phase. So it's not just a dirtle do nothing card where you draw your whole deck and then have nothing to do with it. Because you're clearing your card pool to get that card draw, you can naturally play more cards. We see that with Pony. We see that with Mikasa Ackerman, where, if you don't draw enough cards, card pool clearing doesn't mean anything. And if you don't clear your card pool, drawing too many cards doesn't mean anything, right? So this one feeds itself, and then it also leads to a huge damage pump once you've exhausted all of your rival's resources. So it helps it helps itself end the game. So very cool stuff. Why Rando is so important for this is because he has enhanced discard 1 momentum. Your attacks get +1 speed and +1 damage for the rest of this turn. But the meat and bones is if your opponent is at desperation, meaning they are less than half health. So Rando is 30 health, less than half. He has to be at 14, not 15, to be in desperation. But if your rival is in desperation, your all checks, get +1 for the rest of this turn. So you can use this defensively. You can use this for Rekimaru Mekimaru checks. It counts for playing cards. It's just the spice on top, right? So we need that momentum. We need our rival to be in desperation. So we've got a 1 of Sadist here. First F destroy, your opponent is considered to be in desperation. It's that simple. If they are in desperation, you can flip it to draw 2 cards and then add a card from your hand to momentum. So it's even better if they're already in desperation. But these are both first forms, so they'd have to start the turn in desperation. If they're not in desperation, right, and we don't have Sadist, we do have Reduction. This is the most important attack probably in the deck. Gives all your other attacks +2/+2 while it's in the card pool. But most importantly, while it's in the card pool, your rival is at desperation. It also has Breaker 2, so it's pretty solid defensively. If you breaker your opponent and you start spending momentum defensively for check bonuses, that's not a terrible backup plan. It's definitely saved me before. But so this one says if it's not blocked, add the top card of your deck to momentum. Insane. Absolutely insane. Piercing how? If this attack deals damage, add it to your momentum face up. So it goes from the card pool to your momentum immediately, and then you can spend it for more check bonuses, or you can add it to your card pool for +3 or -3 damage. This used to dominate formats back in the day. It's probably not the most insane attack in Retro, but it fits this deck perfectly. Clear your card pool, get a Reki Meki trigger, get +1/+1 to everything and +1 to checks, or, fake powerful 3. Absolutely amazing. Then we've got Flash Lightning. This is a 1 difficulty attack. Very funny stuff. While it's in the card pool, your mid and high attacks get -1 difficulty. So it basically doesn't count towards progressive, and you can give +1 to your checks during it. If your opponent mistakenly blocks this attack, it goes to your momentum, so it will pretty much never count towards progressive difficulty. We're only playing mid and high attacks, right? And if they block it, it's usually worse for them. So this can end up being like a free 6 or 7 damage if you start with a reduction and you get +1/+1 on both of these attacks. That's like a 4 mid for 7 on a 1 diff. You know, it's a lot of work to get there, but very, very powerful stuff. It's also randomly a reversal. Occasionally, just, you know, presenting an attack to your opponent while they're low on health can be devastating. So don't forget it's a reversal. Um, of the attacks that conditionally leave the card pool, we've got Sleigh Ride's Special Delivery, which always leaves the card pool instead. So this one is Enhance, it gets 4 speed. It does a whole bunch of other stuff based on whether or not your rival has momentum. Most of the time, your rival's not going to have 2 momentum, and you are going to be gifting them a card draw and like readying a face down or something. But the main thing is it's a 7 high for 6 that leaves the card pool. You remove it after it resolves. So that counts as leaving, and that's huge for this deck. It's a big stat stick. It's one of the, you know, best statted moves for a 5 diff. It even has powerful 3 just in case. So don't forget about the powerful in close games. But this one is just like a great way to start off a turn. You know, you play this after a reduction, and it's a what 9 high for 8, and your opponent kind of has to just hold that most of the time. The most impressive attack probably, and the one I wish had a block the most for sure, is Assassination Attempt. Assassination Attempt is a pretty underwhelming attack at first, as it's a 5 mid for 4 5 diff. It becomes 4 difficulty when you're in desperation, which is neat. And it does nothing if your opponent's character is ready. You know, if your opponent's character is committed, it gets +4 damage. So we've seen a lot of critical role characters committing characters is kind of coming back in style. Used to be almost every character had a commit, you know, effect, an enhanced commit cost somewhere on their character. But the main thing is, while this card is in your card pool, when paying costs, you may discard this card instead of 1 momentum. So you play this attack, you play your second attack, you discard this from your card pool to get the +1 to checks. But before that, you get a Reki Meki trigger. So you won't get the +1 to the check when you discard it for cost. That will be before, right? But hopefully you've already got +1 from playing like a reduction or something before this. This doesn't have to be the first attack in this deck. But these two definitely, you know, they just always clear. So they're probably going to be your leadoffs. And it's nice that they're, you know, faster than they are high damage. So this one is really what kind of ties the deck together, because it fits both of our conditions, right? It fits the condition of giving us a momentum, and it fits the condition of discarding a card from the card pool. So this one is, it used to be really talked about, you know, it used to be kind of like a super duper meme card, and I guess it still is here, but it is one of the best meme cards you can ever have. And then last of all, we've got Determined Advance. Who doesn't like Determined Advance? It's a big beat stick. It gives you a momentum. It's reliable. You can play this late game better than any other deck probably ever plays it. You know, playing Determined Advance as your 5th attack, not something you see often, but this deck can absolutely do it. So, excuse me. So this is actually going to be your kill card most of the time, rather than like something you start the turn with like most decks. Our actions help us pass checks and give us momentum. Manifest gives us momentum and clears the card pool, just like Assassination Attempt. So a great way to get the ball rolling as well. Ancestral Quiver gives you +1 to all your checks while it's in the card pool, and it can have some pretty gnarly side effects. I mean, the forms on it can be kind of underwhelming. Discard your rival's momentum is situationally a blowout. Until the end of the turn, they have to lose a vitality to play cards, is probably the most common form you play, but it's mostly to get +1 to your Reki checks, and it pseudo doesn't count towards progressive because of that. But if you have a momentum to spare, all your attacks getting stunned 2 for the turn, absolute bangers, absolute blowout. Foundation wise, we've got a lot of the same, right? We've got 6 checks because we're trying to check 6s for Rekimaru, Mekimaru. Our 6 check gives us momentum. We've got Wealthy Aspirations. This is an old My Hero card, but it's just response flip. After you get a momentum, get a second one. Super good here. Sometimes turning a random momentum face up can be a piercing howl, but we're not really doing any tricks with that. We're playing one of True Identity. Ever since it got the errata to be a first form, you know, being able to like build it and loop it over and over again, isn't possible. And the +1/+1 just isn't going to matter. We don't have those synergies in our deck. We're not playing the rando cards that need the 1/1 so much. And hopefully we're getting enough of a check bonus and clearing our pool that True Identity shouldn't be mega relevant for this deck. We've got Fulfilled in Battle because sometimes you need the block with reduction. Not only does it help you block with reduction, but you don't want reduction to go to your discard pile. You want it to go back to your hand. So blocking with Flash Lightning or reduction, and then adding it back to your hand at the end of the turn is really, really strong. So we're including that. Last Ditch Gamble is like similar to Assassination Attempt in that it does everything we really want it to do. It's form, destroy this foundation, discard a card from your card pool, then you draw a card. So absolute massive lubricant for this deck. Once you've got the check bonuses rolling, discard a card from your card pool and draw 2 cards. Insane with Reki Meki. Fearsome, just drawing more cards. Struggling, same idea. Sometimes you need to block with a reduction and you'd rather just pick it up later, Blocking with it twice even is, really, really strong. So we've got Struggling here. Hunters once more. Now, the spam here is kind of funny. This says response after you play another copy of this card, add that card to your momentum. So this has to be in your stage. You have one in your stage, and then if you play a Hunters once more ever, it goes from your card pool to your momentum. So this is gonna, again, it fits 2 conditions. It gets a Reki Meki trigger, and it adds a momentum to your rando pile. So anything that goes from card pool to momentum, was prioritized for this deck, and Hunters once more is a really weird momentum ramp we just haven't seen again. I'm very surprised we haven't seen this card reprinted. It was very, very, very controversial whether or not this was a broken card or whether or not this was like a do nothing card back in the day, because getting a card from your hand to your momentum was more powerful than it is now, but also, I don't know, like less relevant. It's hard to say, but in this deck, it's an absolute banger. The worst thing though is people will open with 2 of these in their opening hand, and you can't respond with it because it's still in the card pool when you play the second copy. And you end up with 2 Hunters in your stage, and it feels bad. But other than that, it's pretty amazing. Dreaming of Becoming Whole is an insane 0 diff. It's got 2 different abilities. One of them is to discard a momentum to get a +1 to your next check to play and attack, and it's playable while committed. So that's already like incredibly good, and that's repeatable. By the way, everyone forgets that one is not once per turn, because the main use you get out of this card is the response. Once per turn, after you discard any number of momentum, ready this foundation. So it's committed. You rando enhance. You ready it is the most common way that you use this card. I've seen people use this card where you get 3 or 4 dreaming right in your stage. You commit them all. You discard a momentum for your next check to play an attack, and then you ready all of your dreamings, and then you're just trying to block. That was a very common play back in the day. Was just dreamings, readying each other, readying every copy of dreaming, and you were using it offensively, defensively, whatever. So it made it in over Master's Pride just because it doesn't flip, right? Just because it's more than a one-time use over the course of the game. But Master's Pride is a great replacement for this, right? If you're trying to play in person, you don't have Dreaming of Becoming Whole, just play Master's Pride and it totally works. Agile is another really funny one. This card goes with Dreaming really well. After you response card pool, commit 1 foundation. After you play this card, add it to your stage. So you're going to commit a foundation, then you're going to build this ready, and you end up in the same place you were before, except we added 1 to our storm count and maybe drew a card. You can do this when you block. So it's a great way to ramp when you block as well. So this card was also just like an absolute all-star back in the day, back in Retro. Just not too many cards were moving around in these sort of ways. So being able to ramp on your opponent's turn, even though it cost you a foundation, in the immediacy, was really, really strong. And I think sometimes you're wheel spinning. This is just 4 0 divs that you can pretty much always play to get a Mekimaru trigger. But that's the whole deck. There's plenty of cards you can swap in if you like them, and they give you a momentum or clear your card pool on these symbols. Like There's so much freedom you can do with stuff in retro, but I tried to keep it under 70 cards because you are going to be drawing a lot, and the attack amount, the attack quantity is a lot at 24. But some of these attacks are three diffs and one diffs, right? And they don't really hinder your ability to play the other attacks. So hopefully, once you get 6, 7 cards in stage, once you get a reduction and a momentum to get things generated, you can snowball the game out of control pretty quickly. So hopefully you like this one. Tell me if you play this deck. Let me know down in the comments below if you like it. The deck list will be posted, pinned in a comment. So if you want to take this, jam it on TTS, bring it to the Ace Arena, please feel free to do so.